Her many voices, her many voices, her many voices, her many voices.
Hi there, welcome everyone. Thank you so much for being here for another Her Many Voices Lunch and Learn. We're thrilled to have Brenda Kessler and Mariana here from Children and Nature. Could we start out by having you introduce yourselves briefly, Brenda and then Mariana?
Sure. Hi, thank you. Thank you, Myrna, and thank you for Her Many Voices for having us today. My name's Brenda Kessler. I'm a project manager with the Children and Nature Network, calling in today from the ancestral lands of the Lenape in Hoboken, New Jersey.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for the invitation. I'm Mariana from Brazil, from Backyards Playing Movement, and it is a big pleasure to be here today.
Thank you so much. Mariana, will definitely be hearing more from you later as we circle back to a project very specific to what you're working on. So that's great. Brenda, we'd love to hear about just an introduction about Children in Nature in general. I love the name. It's such an amazing thing to have children in nature as much as possible, right? It's healthy. It's good for our mental health and our attitude and all kinds of things, not to mention literally the vibration of our being, right? So I'd love to hear about that.
Yeah, so the children, it's the Children and Nature Network. It's the name speaks for itself. It's a network. We are a virtual nonprofit organization. We were founded in 2006 by Richard Louv, which maybe you've heard of or the audience have heard of, on really just the belief that every child deserves a meaningful connection with a healthy and natural world. We're really one of the only organizations focused solely on increasing equitable access to the benefits of nature for children. So we strongly believe that regular time in nature makes children healthier, happier, and smarter, and everything you just mentioned, Myrna, and also better stewards of the environment. Our founder, Richard Louv, has written many books about this, and people from all over the world really look up to his words. I think he's known for coining this term, nature deficit disorder, and the overall need to reconnect with the natural world. So parting from this vision, our organization has many focus areas. We do a lot of things, and we embark on many strategies that include the creation of resources. We have a very extensive research library that people know us for. We also do a lot of consultation and technical assistance to bring these strategies and advance this work of connecting children to nature. Network building, really bringing peers together and individuals and organizations together to advance this work, running youth development programs. Now, more recently, we're getting into the policy area. That's very recent. And of course, our conference. We have an annual conference that really brings together people in this space. And I know we'll talk about it. And we're happy that Alicia Fall will be part of our conference this year.
Yes. Alicia is our founder here at Her Many Voices. And I understand that Lori Rich at your organization reached out to her specifically to lead some efforts for Children in Nature about really honoring the indigenous cultures and people, in addition to honoring the land and the sacrifices there and that kind of thing, but also it goes much further than that. So Alicia will be speaking about that at your conference. That is June June 12th to 15th, right? In Estes Park,
12
Colorado.
through 15, yes, and in your neck of the woods, if I'm not mistaken, you're all there in Estes Park in Colorado. Yes, that's coming
Yeah,
up.
that's a beautiful place. It's going to be amazing. And I want to mention also some of the other key people who are involved with Harmony Voices will be there as well. Renee Chacon will be there leading this, as well as Chief Lee Plentywolf will be joining. So that's going to be amazing. I also know a few other people who are going to be speaking, and I know it's just going to be great. So is there anything else you'd like to share about the conference? And then we can also circle back to that at the end of our time together.
Yeah, I think this is, so for me, this will be my second conference, and I'm just really excited about the setting this year because it'll be in the mountains, and I think it'll be different from previous conferences because of that setting. Really, living up to what we always say and being immersed in nature. So that part is really exciting, and just meeting, these spaces they always and lead to great outcomes. So just excited to see that.
How many conferences have you had? And give us, what I'm looking for is sort of a scope to understand the size of your organization and the impact.
So intentionally, this conference will be smaller than others, and that's intentional. I think in Atlanta, which was previous 2022, we had about 700, but we also connected other initiatives and made it a bigger event. And also, I think because of COVID, there wasn't a conference in 2021, so it kind of just compounded. But that's a great question. I do not know the exact number. The organization was founded in 2006, so I'm not going to throw a number, but I know there's been many in Oakland and San Francisco area. There was one, and we'll be talking about Green Schoolyards too in a little bit. But so something really exciting about this conference is that we are having a pre-conference tour to look at the Green Schoolyards in Denver. So I know that has been an initiative. One of the pioneers in Green Schoolyards was Denver. So really excited to see the work on the ground there.
Oh, that's great. And a couple other people involved with Harmony Voices will be presenting as well in the arts, and that's Tommy Nuhulu and Melissa Ivy. So they'll be there as well. It's really going to be great. I was reading your website all about it, of course, and I was like, oh my gosh, I want to go. And we really want to thank Lori Rich for Alicia Fall for reaching out about addressing the Indigenous inclusion beyond the land acknowledgement, as we mentioned earlier. So that's great. Well, let's move on to hear about your project, this specific thing that you're heading up for Children in Nature. It's really about greening school grounds, and we're going to share some information about that. Tell us all about it.
So I think I'll start with a little bit of how I came into this work, because I think it's important, and my passion for Green Schoolyard. So I'm about 2 years ago, I joined the organization, and greening school grounds has been happening as a slower movement through many years now. We've seen the work in the U.S. and we've seen it abroad. So for myself, as just another concerned parent, I started immersing myself in this work and looking at my childhood memories. Like when we think about childhood, when I was thinking about my own childhood memories and where was I the happiest? When was I, what are these memories that come back, and how important are they? Nature was big. Nature was just a really big presence in my life. And it really moved me into this work, and it led me back to school, and then eventually led me to the Children in Nature Network. And really excited about the work that all the initiatives that the Children in Nature Network has worked with too, as a pioneer in this space too. But in 2021, we had the opportunity to engage in a project that would help us understand, what was happening in this same type of work, but abroad in other parts of the world. We know that in other parts of the world, it's been happening for a really long time. And we know that there were lessons learned there. And we wanted to build that network too. So a little bit more background on why schools. So when you think about it, schools are just such a perfect place to connect children to nature. In the US, over 28 million kids in America don't have a park within a walking distance. And that's a statistic that from our partners at TPL. But if you think about it, they do have a school. And these schools today are typically closed in after school hours. They're not accessible. And quite honestly, a lot of them look more like a prison. They're concrete. They're not engaging the community, or they're not spaces where you can connect with nature. They're very little green space. And children spend a significant amount of time in these spaces. So it's really impactful to think about, what if these schoolyards were turned into park-like spaces and opened to the community in after-school hours. And that's been, the value of that has been increasing in the US, and there's more people working towards this vision. And so in 2021, with the support of a grant by the Robert Wood Johnson Foundation, the Children in Nature Network, in partnership, and bear with me because there are many partners in this project, Salzburg Global Seminar, the International School Grounds Alliance, the International Union for Conservation of Nature, Nature for All, and the National League of Cities. So we were many partners. We embarked on a journey to identify and disseminate successful approaches from around the world to help us really understand what are some of the challenges and what are some of the opportunities for this work to happen everywhere. And that's how the Global Lessons on Greening School Grounds and Outdoor Learning Project came about.
Yeah, you also have a very specific outreach for, focus on equity, meaning that students and children who normally don't have access, I know you mentioned the statistic about they're not even walking distance from a park. And so could you say more about that effort?
Yeah, for sure. So exactly, this work is not happening equitably, right? It's there's a big gap in park space and neighborhoods, and there's a lot of components to look into that. When in our work in the US with the Children Nature Network and the National League of Cities, which is what we do domestically here, is really look at areas of opportunity, mapping out with key indicators of where these gaps are. And we don't only look at park space, but we looking at other indicators, demographics and environmental indicators that might prioritize. So yes, there's everything that we do has a big equity focus. And this project the global project was not foreign to that. When we looked at, we wanted to make sure there's a lot of geographic considerations, climatic, culture, political aspects. And that's how we got to the case studies. We didn't want to just focus in one area because we know that what might apply in Western Europe may not apply in South America or may not be relevant in parts of Southeast Asia. So
Absolutely.
when we got to building the case studies, we made sure that we were being culturally and geographically representative.
Right. That's great. Is this a good time to have a look at a few slides?
Yes, for sure.
And so here we go. I'll let you talk through these, and Aisela will advance them for us.
Yeah.
In the background, with the wizard in the background.
That's this is a picture actually from, I want to say IVN or Antwerp in Belgium. Forgive me if I'm wrong, but so the partners you see are the partners that are engaging in this work going forward. We have, since the culmination of this project, which ended At the beginning of this year, we have added Learning Planet and Alana Institute and Learning Landscapes and UNESCO. Sorry, a lot of
And
them
also, I see her many voices there in the top right corner.
Yes. So this, if we can go to the next slide, when I was saying about creating the case studies, one of the first things that we did when we were selecting these case studies was to create a survey so we could understand what was, who was engaging in this work at a global scale. And based on that, narrowing it down, there are many benefits to green schoolyards. We have another graphic that depicts a lot of them, but we narrowed it down to these 5: play, health and well-being, climate resilience and biodiversity, community engagement, and education. And if you think about it, green school grounds touch upon all of them. There's really, it doesn't matter which one you pick, the other benefits follow. But there are some starting points for some cities that it's easier to make the case if you're already really focused in one of these areas or it's a priority area. So in this project, we created 13 case studies, and 2 of them for each, and then 3 kind of like, we call them all around. So they touched upon all of them. And we'll hear from Mariana in Brazil, from Quintais Brincantes, which that in particular was focused on play. So this is kind of the case study framework and how we envision this project. And it really shows how greening school grounds can touch upon all of these benefits. And if we go to the next slide, this is a schoolyard in Paris. So for Paris, really this started as a climate resilience strategy. And again, all of the other benefits follow. But for them, it really started with the heat waves in, I believe, 2017. And then later on, there was another big one. And the city started looking at, in dense areas like Paris or New York, or cities that don't have more space to grow, right? Where do you go? You can't add more park space. Turning school grounds into open spaces, opening them up to the community and turning them into park-like spaces was really embedded in their climate resilience strategy. So they've done an amazing work. They've transformed nearly 100 schoolyards already. And I wish I had a before picture of this one. I don't, but I personally visited this one. And one of the stories that really struck for me was speaking to a teacher. And this is reflected in one of the interviews. And these are all in videos, and they're available on schoolgroundgreening.org. But one of the stories that really struck me is that, like, the teacher said, we stopped being policemen. Before, there were a lot of fights and a lot of behavior issues in the school ground. And after the transformation, you can see how the children are spread out in this picture, and there's something to do for everyone, whether you're, you need some peace and quiet, or you want to dig a hole, or you want to run around into a more rough play. There's really something for everyone. So that really stuck with me on how it has changed behavior. And
great.
These are some other pictures from, if we go to the previous one, just the top one is in Antwerp, and then in India, it's called Anthill Creations, an organization that is also really looking at schools and transforming their outdoor spaces by using recycled materials and really creating an impact for a lot of children that would otherwise not have that opportunity. Below that one is it's an ethnobotanical garden in Morocco that is really engaging on indigenous knowledge, bringing indigenous plants to the education to a boarding school in the high Atlas Mountains of Morocco. And then the last one, some little kids, we visited as part of this. The only place that we actually went out and filmed the case study was in Peru. And these are some little children looking at I don't remember the name of the bug, but it's a methodology called children's lands, and it's creating a space, whether it's in an urban or rural environment, where children nurture life and biodiversity, but they're really the leaders in this space. So granting children a space where they can learn by doing. It's not adult guided. It's really just about them having a space to connect with nature and learn, whether it thrives or not. Sometimes we adults want to intervene in these spaces, but it's really important that we let children be the ones that are guiding the design and the way they play, right?
That's really amazing. What you said a little bit ago about teachers not having to police, the area is so powerful, to think of it that way. And I can imagine that just having the whole different environment changes their entire perception of what's happening around them and their relationship to each other. That's really an important thing. I think that's wonderful. So next slide, I think, shows where you're working.
Yeah, so the next slide is, like I said, we started this project just putting out a survey, pushing it out as much as we could. But the survey is still open. We kept it open prior to the project starting. We kept it open for 6 months, just really capturing where this was happening. And I think it's important to show that there are gaps. This work, and this is kind of like our work moving forward, is how do we fill these gaps? How do we make it more equitable? And how do we make sure that every child everywhere has an opportunity? There's out of this project came a vision, a collective vision, which was, we envision a world where every child, especially the most vulnerable, connects meaningfully with nature every day. Because if we are gonna change anything with everything that's happening environmentally, it can't just happen somewhere. It has to happen everywhere. And connecting children to nature is such a key piece when we talk about sustainable development, we talk about climate change. We don't often talk about the importance of connecting children to nature. It's kind of like a missing piece. They're the generation that's gonna be in charge of or are gonna see the most impact, right? Generations to come. And you can't protect what you don't love. There's a saying, proverb on that, and it just really holds true. If we want children to grow up as environmental stewards, we really need to do the work now when they're young and they can develop this love for nature.
Interesting quote. You can't protect what you don't love, meaning that you don't have the desire to protect what you don't love.
Exactly. Or maybe, I don't know if it's the desire, but if you don't have a connection to it, you can't name it, then how do you fight for it? how do you protect it?
Yeah. Well, would you like to go ahead and bring Mariana in to speak about the project in Brazil, which is one of your 13 case studies?
Yes, I think so. One of the things I really like, there is Mariana. Yeah, she can introduce the backyards playful movement, it's really amazing. I think we want to play the video first. We have a short video. Every case study is about 3 minutes, and I welcome the audience to look at the others on school ground greening. But yeah, I think it'd be great too if we can start with that one.
Great.
Esses espaços são fundamentais para o desenvolvimento físico, emocional, afetivo, social, mental e espiritual. Eu sou uma das muitas representantes do movimento dos quintais brincantes. Para contar um pouco sobre esse coletivo tão grandioso, eu acredito que tem alguns aspectos importantes. Falar um pouco também sobre a visão que nós temos a respeito da saúde integral de todos os seres vivos que habitam o quintal.
Aqui as crianças aprendem brincando, imersas em arte, cultura e contato com a natureza. Atualmente temos em nosso projeto 30 crianças, sendo que algumas delas chegaram indicadas por psicólogas e psicopedagogas, com suspeitas de TDAH, necessidade de maior socialização e rotina e falta de concentração.
Faz parte desse movimento, em sua maioria mulheres, de diversas regiões do Brasil, e nós pesquisamos o brincar, a cultura brasileira em conexão com a natureza.
Aqui cultivamos uma horta e uma pequena agrofloresta junto com as crianças. Nela vivenciamos o ciclo dos alimentos, desde o plantio das mudas e sementes até a colheita desses alimentos e o consumo no nosso lanche coletivo. Prezamos por uma alimentação saudável, principalmente orgânica e vinda dos produtores locais.
Os espaços quintaleiros são diversos, alguns são registrados como escola, outros embaixo de um grande pé de mangueira, por exemplo. E também é bonito contar que tem muitas mulheres quintaleiras levando essa prática tão rica Brasil afora, movimentando experiências livres e ocupando praças, parques e também espaços privados.
Pensando nesse contínuo cuidado com a saúde, prezamos pelo contato presencial, contato direto com a natureza e com as relações interpessoais, de modo que os jogos eletrônicos e as telas não fazem parte da nossa rotina.
Os brinquedos surgem ao seu redor. Elas brincam com pedras, frutos, folhas, água, barro, materiais tão vivos e presentes nesses espaços. Falando sobre a cultura brasileira, é o que nos inspira, as mestres, os mestres da cultura, nossas mães, avós, que trazem consigo saberes ancestrais. E esses saberes são fundamentais para preservar, para transmitir o brincar de geração para geração.
Esse contato, como já foi comprovado em diversas pesquisas científicas, além da nossa própria observação empírica, aumenta a imunidade, diminui riscos de obesidade, melhora a circulação sanguínea e respiratória.
Então esse é um pouco do nosso movimento tão importante para as crianças, para as infâncias e também para nós educadores.
Wonderful, that's great. I should mention the technicality. I mentioned that Her Many Voices logo was on your event earlier, and it's actually not, because that was the logo that belongs in our screen here. So I apologize for that mistake. Mariana, welcome. We're so happy that you're here. This is amazing. What would you like to share about the project first?
Okay, first of all, I would like to thank you all, especially Brenda and Her Many Voices, for this invitation. For me, it's a big pleasure to speak a little bit about this movement. And I want to present some slides, if it's possible. Mm-hmm. Yeah?
Yes, there we go.
And also, I think I prefer to read these slides because it helps me with my English.
Sure. And this is the name of your project.
It is Quintais Brincantes, Backyards Playing Movement. So
next slide.
Yeah, please. So the Backyards Playing Movement was born in 2019. And now we gathered around 200 educational projects like schools and playhouses in Brazil. and approximately 300 educators spread across more than 16 states in the country. And we are all volunteers, an essentially female group connected with the creative power of Mother Earth. You can go. So our main goal is to be a learning community with free exchanges about educating children connected with nature. We do believe in education anchored in the ancestral knowledge of the traditional communities, in the knowledge of our grandmothers, and in nature as a teacher. We can go to the next one. So in 2020, we conducted a survey with 52 playful backyards, and the result became a book available for free download via link in Instagram Quintais Brincantes, and in a partnership with Instituto Alana, we managed to print 1,000 copies that are being distributed in 66 public schools across the country. We are now 33 educators involved in that, and also developing new workshops related to playful backyard practices. And in this research, we found some principles, fundamentals, but they are not rules that we must follow. They are just some directions that connect us. And those principles are nature and children as teachers, respect for children, their time and their autonomy, free play, socializing between children of different ages, listen and look sensitively at the entire community, both for children and adults, care for an integral and healthy development, place for adults, self-education, connection with the culture and community in which they are placed, simplicity and kindness. You can go. And to reach these goals, we hold many meetings, conversations, circles, workshops, exhibitions, scientific researches, free researches, among other initiatives to expand our network and multiply values and practice of playful backyards. So I selected some pictures to illustrate a little bit of some backyards, especially to show how children explore nature, how they can play freely and healthy. You can go to the next one. There are some pictures, just a few, because I knew that we're gonna see the video. But I would like to say that I selected pictures from different places in Brazil, because it is a movement that goes across all these huge countries. So it's amazing that we get this this network making just of women and volunteers, almost women and all volunteers. So that's it. Thank you for this opportunity.
Thank you so much for sharing that. I'll let you and Brenda chat about this.
I think, Mariana, when we something that really struck me on this movement, it's mostly led by women, and
yeah,
I know something that maybe I didn't mention. So I was born and raised in Guadalajara, Mexico. So I'm Latina myself, and women play such a key role in my culture. I think in general, but more in Latin America, maybe, of like decision making towards children's health and just in general at home. Tell us a little bit more about how this movement came and brought together principally women.
Yeah, we found this answer while we were making the research with these backyards. And what happened is, in almost cases, mothers wants to find some different places for their own kids, and then didn't find it. And then they decide to bring the community to their own houses or to small schools, small playhouses, and then starts a new project. That's a very common history that makes this movement happen so far. So and then I think as we have as we are inspired in our grandmothers and in the traditional communities also, what we offer for children is what we learn with them, and we learn about care, about nature relationship, and about a community life, and about parties. We love parties as a way to resist, to put people together, to celebrate life, and not just like keep with the heavy party, the heavy.
It sounds like so many movements. It was started by moms, right?
Yeah.
I mean, certainly women, but specifically moms who care about their kids and want their kids to have access and to have, to what we inherently know is good for them, right?
Yeah.
And I think it's more important than ever right now because of the obsession with electronics and, getting this people outside into nature. That's so important. A moment ago, we had the link up for the Instagram page. I wanted to make sure that was included. So if people wanted to download your book, here it is. For those of you who want to download the book that you mentioned, that they could do so. So there you go.
Thank you.
Yeah. And I'll share, Mariana, it showed up in Quintais, and it showed up in a lot of the case studies, and how we are slowly losing that ancestral knowledge and the use of different plants. And it showed up in Morocco when we were down in Peru. That is just such a key part of all this, that transfer of knowledge that Quintais is working on, and making sure that it's passed on from generations. Do you see a change in that? Is the movement fueling that?
Totally. And also, we made a meeting just with women who are masters, traditional masters in their communities, and it was online, and we hope to make one now in-person meeting. But it was so beautiful because we chose some woman very representative, and woman who has works with children in the traditional way, and they taught us a lot of songs and rituals and things that we can bring to the projects, to the educational projects, and of course the plants and food and other things.
Yeah, a lot of great work happening in Brazil. I'll mention, Mirna, too, that we had 2 case studies in Brazil. So there, Quintais was one, and then we also delved into a municipality outside of Sao Paulo called Jundiaí, and their work really stemmed from the COVID pandemic, and really realizing how important green spaces for everybody. It wasn't just for Jundiaí. I think we all realized the importance of, or it really emphasized the importance of green spaces during the pandemic. So we did a case study there too, not just greening school grounds, but looking at the nearby places. This project also
Yeah.
engaged in outdoor learning. So it's not just about greening the spaces, but looking around to see what is already available and how can cities and schools work together to make that accessible, to use those spaces nearby as an outdoor classroom. And we do that here in the US too. Like, sometimes you can't expand, or you can't recreate. You just got to look at the spaces that are already available and activating them. So I know Quintais does that too.
Yeah,
It
a
just
lot.
some are
It's
in the
awesome.
school and some are outside of the school.
Yeah, because
And I know,
with the
sorry,
no,
Mariana,
please.
go ahead.
Oh no, please.
I was just going to say, I know you mentioned some numbers already, but just to get a scope of what we're talking about in Brazil, how many locations are there? Do you have some numbers? I know you did.
Yeah, I just present. We are around 200 projects directly connected in a Brazilian map, where everyone can find those projects.
Yeah.
And also, I think an important thing to mention is the backyards playing movement. We don't say to anyone or to any project that someone or some projects are backyards playing. I don't know how to say exactly in English, but in Portuguese we say that we are quintaleiras. So it's a self-recognition. So I think that's a great strategy to spread, to multiply our ideas, because anyone who feels that what we say is a good thing, it's a good way to practice something with children, can say that, oh, I am a quintaleira. I am. My project is a quintal, né? Is a backyard.
So those people want to engage with the network and become part of what you're doing, right? And so they're doing something that's aligned, and you're saying that you're very inclusive in saying, yes, you can be a part of this in your geographic area. And when you say 200 projects, that's 200 different geographic areas around Brazil, right?
In 16 states now.
Yeah.
We hope to get all Brazilian states.
And that's impacting so many people. That's the hard part to quantify, isn't it? How many children's lives and parents' lives are being impacted by all of this?
That's hard, especially because these numbers are the numbers that from people who are directly connected with us, but in Instagram and other places in the internet or in some meetings, we join much more people. So yeah.
Yeah, that's wonderful. Brenda, would you like to say anything else about the Brazil project, or either of you want to do that? And then Mariana, do you want to just stay with us the rest of the time? It's completely up to you.
Sure. No, yes, of course. Thank you.
The only thing I'll say is thank you to Mariana and to all the work that is happening across Brazil. We, like I said, Alana Foundation is now become a key partner as we move forward and continue to grow the movement, because that's really the idea here, is to continue growing the movement. And I do want to take a moment to invite everyone who, this is not happening in a vacuum. This is a movement, and anyone in the audience should feel as empowered to join the movement. Part of the project was developing a global action agenda. So really creating or drafting some of the key steps, key areas of focus where the work needs to progress. And so we all met in Salzburg at the end of the project to draft this the Global Action Agenda, and I can drop it in the chat. It's embedded in the School Ground Greening website. And I invite everyone to endorse the agenda, to pass it along, and to also take the survey. The survey is on the website, because that's how we will continue to learn of the work that's happening around the world. So really just inviting the audience to take those two steps and join the movement.
Great, thank you. Brenda, I'll let you decide if we should play now another video from another case study. I do think we have time.
Yeah, I think so. I thought one of the really interesting, there were many lessons learned through this project, but risky play and how we think about risk, it resonated a lot with me, because I guess maybe my generation, as a parent myself, I'm constantly taking myself back on like, well, are my kids engaging in risky behavior because it's perceived by me, or is it okay to let them? And that was one of our case studies that from Antwerp, of which we can play the video, that talks a lot about how this plays a key role. Yes, we can listen in.
Thank you.
Speelnatuur kan elke dag iets anders zijn. Zeker losse materialen. Daar kun je elke dag anders mee spelen. De ene dag is dat een keukentje, de andere dag wordt daarmee gebouwd, waardoor dat ook nooit verveelt. Initieel, toen wij begonnen met een proefproject rond natuurspeelplaatsen, dat was in 2010, dan was dat vooral vanuit de insteek van wij willen kinderen die in de stad opgroeien en die niet altijd een tuin hebben, die ook niet altijd in het park gaan spelen, maar op straat en op pleintjes. Wij willen die terug dichter bij de natuur brengen. Een oplossing is eigenlijk, waar gaan alle kinderen naartoe? Dat is naar school. Antwerpen is een heel dicht bebouwde stad. Hè. En scholen zitten echt midden in de buurt. Rond een schoolspeelplaats zie je heel vaak tuinen, huizen van mensen. Dus de school is daar echt wel heel centraal en heel ingebed in de wijk.
Dus wij voelen echt aan de kinderen dat ze hier veel liever spelen dan op een traditionele speelplaats. Hier is veel meer plek om in cirkels te lopen. Dus hier worden heel veel tikspelletjes, verstopspelletjes gespeeld. Dus in die zin is dat ook wel uitlokkend om meer te bewegen. Er zijn veel minder conflicten. Er is een ander spel gekomen. Er is meer rollenspel. Ook omdat de kinderen zich nu benoemen als wij zijn groene bevers, spelen zij het beverrollenspel. In de beverhut en in de tunnel en zo. Wij hebben ook een buitenkeukentje, dus ze gaan met natuurlijke materialen spelen.
Wat wij belangrijk vinden is dat scholen gaan onderzoeken van welke noden hebben wij hier, welke noden hebben de leerlingen of de leerkrachten, de ouders, de buurt. En dat ze zo op basis daarvan eigenlijk hun ideale speelplaats gaan ontwerpen. Dus dat kan er overal anders uitzien. We vragen ook aan scholen om indien mogelijk hun schoolspeelplaats te delen buiten de schooluren.
Buiten lesgeven is eigenlijk een ongelooflijke manier om kinderen te triggeren tot ontdekken. Het leuke aan onze tuin is dat je hier ook risicovol spel aanbiedt. En risicovol spel is een hele belangrijke tegenwoordig in het vergroeningsproces. Het maakt dat je kinderen leert omgaan met risico's nemen. De dingen die wij bouwen, die bouwen wij zelf.
Op het eerste zicht zou je denken, een natuurspeelplaats is gevaarlijker. Het ziet er ook gevaarlijker uit. Maar dat maakt ze net veiliger, omdat kinderen gaan op een natuurspeelplaats veel beter zelf het risico inschatten. Op een normgekeurde speelplaats, noem ik dat dan, gaan kinderen vertrouwen op het oordeel van de volwassenen.
Kinderen die kunnen spelen op zo'n toffe speelplaats, die gaan zich beter voelen, die gaan zich beter kunnen ontplooien, die gaan hun talenten ontdekken. Want je kunt hier veel onderzoeken, experimenteren, leren waar dat jij goed in bent. En soms op een andere manier dan gewoon in de klas.
Whoop. You're
That's another beautiful video. Thank you. Before you address that, I want to mention to everyone, we have about 10 minutes left. And if you have questions, please type them in the chat and they'll come through and we'd love to answer your questions. So everyone, please do that. And then, yes, let's hear a little bit about that. And I'm specifically curious about when you use the word risk and how that plays in.
Yeah, so he mentioned something, and I don't know if I made it specifically that quote into the interview, but there's like real risk and perceived risk. And very often we as adults tend to stop kids because there's a perceived risk. And Antwerp, what they've done with these green schoolyards and the designing of them, well, first of all, involving everyone from the beginning, right? So the community engagement and the co-design and making sure the equivalent of a facilities person or the teachers and the students are all involved, that kind of helps mitigate those conversations around danger or safety, because everyone has a voice and everyone understands why that piece of equipment was put in there for the first place. So I think that community part is really important. But they also have a designated risk officer that is constantly looking at, what is real and what is perceived. And studies say there's a significant amount of research talking about how risk can be really beneficial for children. And when we take that away, there are more injuries, there are more situations. So
that's so
we have
interesting.
to, something we have to navigate, especially here in the US.
It's really interesting. It's I kept thinking about the mama bear, need to protect our kids. And then moms, we do tend to be, I should speak for myself, I tend to be a little overprotective, right? And typically it's the father or man's role to push them a little bit to take more risks.
Mm-hmm.
And specifically though, what you're talking about is in a playground environment that in a typical playground, they sort of take the risk elements out, probably in part because of liability, right?
Right.
But really, I think what I'm hearing you say is that there should be built-in ways for the kids to decide for themselves how much risk they want to take, and a nature playground is much more appropriate for that.
Correct. Yes. There are. We have to educate ourselves on what's real and what's perceived, and just parting from there, and not just because there was an injury taking it all out, or creating some policy that prevents that from now on. So there's a big liability component to it, and there's work happening around that.
Yeah, of course. We have a question from Alicia, who's probably in Amsterdam right now. Are you in Amsterdam? It's okay. You don't need to read it. Are you in Amsterdam?
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay, I didn't understand the question. We're in the Netherlands for sure, in many parts of the Netherlands. I don't say we, our partners, not the Children Nature Network specifically. We have some projects that we've engaged as part of this Global Lessons on Greening School Grounds project in Rotterdam, which will also be presenting at the conference. IVN is the organization leading that, and there's a case study from the Netherlands in our website.
That's great. So really, one thing that I really was struck by this entire time we've been talking is that you are truly, truly global, and having such a huge impact on the world and on children around the world. It's amazing. And that those partners really enable that, right? I know that your partners are very credible. I know the IUCN and some of the organizations, I'm very familiar with them. So I know that what you're doing is just really credible and impactful and amazing. So I just wanted to mention that.
Yes, we are, and it's growing. We are, like I said, after this stage of the project culminated, at the beginning of this year. And as that first slide showed, we have now UNESCO and Alana and the Learning Planet, which they're global partners. Their global reach is impressive. So we have high hopes for the movement and for this to continue on as a standard practice. And again, just reemphasizing that it's not happening everywhere. And as of the next stage of this project, we've created a steering committee that, right now it's in the stages of getting funding, because all of this needs funding. So yes, moving forward is just looking at the gaps, looking at that survey, and how can we continue to support this in areas where they're most needed.
Yeah. To circle back then, sort of tying this back to the conference and sharing a little bit more about that, will these projects be presented at the conference?
Yes, we are having one panel specifically on this. Our conference in general tends to attract an international audience. So I'll say that. And we're also having this particular project presented as a panel in Denver. We'll hear more from Peru, which will be there, Rotterdam, which you just asked, and Brazil, Jundiaí will be there. And the idea is also and also I should say Limburg in Belgium, which was not a case study, but there's great work happening there. And one of our partners in this work is the ISGA organization, International School Grounds Alliance, and which will be held in 2024 in Belgium. So there's a lot happening. Sometimes I say, I don't know if it's because it's me that's immersed in this movement, but sometimes I ask people that are not in the movement, I'm like, there's a lot happening around this work. And I see Mariana nodding, and maybe she'll have some words of encouragement. And it's not just me listening on this work, but I have a lot of hope. Mariana, do you feel the same way? There's a lot of movement to reconnect children to nature worldwide.
Yes, I do, and I also feel that when we are with children, it's so strong when they are in nature, and we can see like not only them but the whole community like feel their bodies healthy and comfortable in nature, and feel that we are nature, not nature is there and we are here. So I think it also gives me a lot of hope. And for sure, Brenda, your movement is awesome, is a big gift to anyone who works with children and nature. And this draft agenda that Brenda said is a great document, I think very inspiring for many projects around the world.
And people can download that from your website, right? childrenandnature.org.
They can download it, but they can also endorse it. So we're
right. Yes.
Yeah.
Really great. Wow. Thank you. And I wanted to just, regarding the conference that's coming up so soon, it's June 12th through 15th in Estes Park, Colorado. Can people still sign up to attend?
I think so, yes. And we will have a virtual ticket available. We do want to see you in person. We are all about in-person and contact with nature. But for those that are unavailable to attend in person, we will have a virtual, I think it's already up available, a virtual ticket.
And you both will be there, is that right?
Yes. I don't know about Mariana. Mariana, we'll have Jundiaí represented for Brazil, but
Great.
yes.
Yeah, awesome. And then you mentioned this so briefly, I want to say it again. You're offering a tour of the Denver Green School Grounds.
Correct.
Right?
Yeah,
prior to going out.
And I won't offer too much because I think we're very limited on spaces on what are available still, but I wanted to highlight that Denver has been a pioneer in this work, and they have done amazing work with a lot of their school grounds, transforming them. We have a tour on the 11th, and it's kind of like a pre-conference tour,
Yeah.
but it sold out very quickly. We're trying to figure out whether we open up a few more, but
Okay.
yeah, stay tuned.
Yeah, that's wonderful. And I think you do have some spots open for the Indigenous youth.
Yes,
so-
I know the link for the conference has been dropped in the chat, and I'm happy to follow up on slots that are still available. Yes.
And here is the link, childrenandnature.org/inside-out. So that's awesome. Well, I want to thank you both so much for joining me today and sharing all this important work with the Her Many Voices community. Is there any final words that you'd like to share?
No, thank you for giving us the space to really lift up the not our work, but the work that's happening all over the world, and we're all a part of it. It's really a movement. So thank you, and thank you, Alicia, and Myrna, and Isila.
Thank you so much. Mariana, thank you as well. Thank you
Thank you
both.
so much. Thanks a lot.
Yes, wonderful to have you here. Thank you. Have a wonderful day.